Hello and welcome to Bookspot. I'm Earl Weinberg. This time we will continue our reading of Rewards and Fairies by Rudyard Kipling. We are in the middle of a tale by St. Wilfrid, Archbishop to the Saxons way back when. He and his assistant and their friend Meon have been shipwrecked while out fishing. Meon, by the way, is not yet a Christian. He's still a Saxon pagan. Thank you very much. Lie quiet, I'm giving Wotan his chance, said Meon. Our dear Edie ambled up, still beating time to his imaginary choir. Yes, call on your gods, he cried, and see what gifts they will send you. They're gone on a journey, or they're hunting. I assure you the words were not out of his mouth when old Padda, shot from the top of a cold, wrinkled swell, drove himself over the weedy ledge and landed fair on our laps with a rock cod between his teeth. I could not help smiling at Edie's face. A miracle, he cried, and kneeled down to clean the cod. You've been a long time winding us, my son, said Meon. Now fish for all our lives. We're starving, Padda. The old fellow flung himself quivering like a salmon backward into the boil of the currents round the rocks, and Meon said, We're safe. I'll send him to fetch help when this wind drops. Eat and be thankful. I never tasted anything so good as those rock codlings we took from Padda's mouth and half roasted over the fire. Between his plunges, Padda would hunch up and purr over Meon with tears running down his face. I never knew before that seals could weep for joy, as I have wept. Surely, said Edie with his mouth full, God has made the seal the loveliest of his creatures in the water. Look how Padda breasts the current. He stands up against it like a rock. Now watch the chain of bubbles where he dives, and now this is his wise head under that rock ledge. Oh, a blessing be on thee, my little brother Padda. You said he was a child of the devil, Meon laughed. There I sinned, poor Edie answered. Call him here and I will ask his pardon. God sent him from the storm to humble me, a fool. I won't ask you to enter into fellowships and understandings with any accursed brute, said Meon rather unkindly. Shall we say he was sent to our bishop as the ravens were sent to your prophet Elijah? Doubtless it is so, said Edie. I will write it so if I live to get home. No, I said, let us three poor men kneel and thank God for his mercies. We kneeled, and old Padda shuffled up and thrust his head under Meon's elbows. I laid my hand upon it and blessed him. So did Edie. Now, my son, I said to Meon, shall I baptize thee? Not yet, said he. Wait till we are well ashore and at home. No god in any heaven shall say that I came to him or left him because I was wet and cold. I will send Padda to my people for a boat. Is that witchcraft, Eddie? Why, no. Surely Padda will go and pull them to the beach by the skirts of their gowns, as he pulled me in Wittering Church to ask me to sing. Only then I was afraid and did not understand, said Edie. You are understanding now, said Meon, and at a wave of his arm off went Padda to the mainland, making a wake like a war boat till we lost him in the rain. Meon's people could not bring a boat across for some hours. Even so, it was ticklish work among the rocks in that tideway. But they hoisted me aboard, too stiff to move, and Padda swam behind us, barking and turning somersaults all the way to Manhood End. Good old Padda, murmured Dan. When we were quite rested and reclothed, and his people had been summoned, not an hour before, Meon offered himself to be baptized. Was Padda baptized too? Una asked. No, that was only Meon's joke. But he sat blinking on his ox hide in the middle of the hall. When Edie, who thought I wasn't looking, made a little cross in holy water on his wet muzzle, he kissed Edie's hand. A week before, Edie wouldn't have touched him. That was a miracle, if you like. But seriously, I was more glad than I can tell you to get Meon, a rare and splendid soul that never looked back. Never looked back. The Archbishop half closed his eyes. But, sir, said Puck most respectfully, haven't you left out what Meon said afterward? Before the bishop could speak, he turned to the children and went on, Meon called all his fishers and plowmen and herdsmen into the hall, and he said, "Listen, men, 2 days ago I asked our bishop whether it was fair for a man to desert his father's gods in a time of danger. The bishop said it was not fair. You needn't shout like that, because you're all Christians now. My red warboat's crew will remember how near we all were to death when Pada fetched them over to the bishop's islet. You can tell your mates that even in that place, at that time, hanging on the wet, weedy edge of death, our bishop, a Christian, counseled me, a heathen, to stand by my father's gods. I tell you now that a faith which takes care that every man shall keep faith, even though he may save his soul by breaking faith, is the faith for a man to believe in. So I believe in the Christian God, and in Wilfrid his archbishop, and in the church that Wilfrid rules. You have been baptized once by the king's orders. I shall not have you baptized again, but if I find any more old women being sent to Wotan, or any girls dancing on the sly before Balder, or any men talking about Thor or Loke or the rest, I will teach you with my own hands how to keep faith with the Christian God. Go out quietly. You'll find a cup of beefs on the beach." Then, of course, they shouted, "Hurrah!" which means, "Thor help us." And, "I think you laughed, sir?" "I think you remember too well," said the archbishop, smiling. "It was a joyful day for me. I had learned a great deal on that rock where Pada found us. Yes, yes. One should deal kindly with all the creatures of God and gently with their masters. But one learns late." He rose, and his gold-embroidered sleeves rustled thickly. The organ clacked and took deep breaths. "Wait a minute," Dan whispered. "She's going to do the trumpety one. It takes all the wind you can pump. It's in Latin, sir." "There is no other tongue," the archbishop answered. "It's not a real hymn," Una explained. "She does it as a treat after her exercises. She isn't a real organist, you know. She just comes down here sometimes from the Albert Hall." "Oh, what a miracle of a voice," said the archbishop. It rang out suddenly from a dark arch of lonely noises, every word spoken to the very end. "Dies ire, dies illa, solvent saeculum in favilla, teste David cum Sabila." The archbishop caught his breath and moved forward. The music carried on by itself for a while. "Now it's calling all the light out of the windows," Una whispered to Dan. "I think it's more like a horse neighing in battle," he whispered back. The voice cried, "Tuba mirum spargens sonum per sepulchra regionum." Deeper and deeper the organ dived down, but far below its deepest note they heard Puck's voice joining in the last line, "Go get omnes ante thronum." As they looked in wonder, for it sounded like the dull jar of one of the very pillars shifting, the little fellow turned and went out through the south door. "Now's the sorrowful part. It's very beautiful." Una found herself speaking to the empty chair in front of her. "What are you doing that for?" Dan said behind her. "You spoke so politely, too." "I don't know. I thought," said Una, "funny." "'Tisn't. It's the part you like best," Dan grunted. The music had turned soft, full of little sounds that chased each other on wings across the broad, gentle flood of the main tune. But the voice was 10 times lovelier than the music. "Recordarde Jesu pie, quod sum causa tue vie, ne me perdas illa die." There was no more. They moved out into the center aisle. "That you?" the lady called as she shut the lid. "I thought I heard you, and I played it on purpose." "Thank you awfully," said Dan. "We hoped you would, so we waited. Come on, Una, it's pretty near dinner time." Song of the Red Warboat. Shove off from the wharf edge, steady, watch for a smooth, give way. If she feels the lop already, she'll stand on her head in the bay. It's ebb, it's dusk, it's blowing, the shoals are a mile of white, but snatch her along, we're going to find our master tonight. For we hold that in all disaster of shipwreck, storm, or sword, a man must stand by his master once he has pledged his word. Raging seas we have rowed in, but seldom we saw them thus. Our master is angry with Odin, and Odin is angry with us. Heavy odds have we taken, but never before such odds. The gods know they are forsaken. We must risk the wrath of the gods. Over the crest she flies from, into its hollow she drops, crouches and clears her eyes from the wind-torn breaker tops, ere out on the shrieking shoulder of a hill-high surge she drives. Meet her and hold her, pull for your scoundrel lives. The thunders bellow and clamor, the harm that they mean to do. There goes Thor's own hammer, cracking the dark in two. Close, but the blow has missed her. Here comes the wind of the blow. Row, or the squall will twist her, broadside onto it. Row! Hearken, Thor of the thunder, we are not here for a jest, for wager, for warfare or plunder, or to put your power to test. This work is none of our wishing. We would stay at home if we might, but our master is wrecked out fishing. We go to find him tonight. For we hold that in all disaster, as the gods themselves have said, a man must stand by his master till one of the two is dead. That is our way of thinking. Now you can do as you will, while we try to save her from sinking and hold her head to it still. Bail her and keep her moving, or she'll break her back in the trough. Who said the weather's improving, or the swells are taking off? Sodden and chafed and aching, gone in the loins and knees. No matter, the day is breaking, and there's far less weight to the seas. Upmast and finish bailing, in oars and out with the mead. The rest will be two reef sailing. That was a night indeed. But we hold that in all disaster, and faith we have found it true, if only you stand by your master, the gods will stand by you. An astrologer's song. To the heavens above us, O look and behold the planets that love us, all harnessed in gold. What chariots, what horses against us shall bide, while the stars in their courses do fight on our side. All thought, all desires that are under the sun are one with their fires, as we also are one. All matter, all spirit, all fashion, all frame, receive and inherit their strength from the same. O man that deniest all power save thine own, their power in the highest is mightily shown. Not less in the lowest that power is made clear. O man, if thou knowest what treasure is here. Earth quakes in her throes, and we wonder for why, but the blind planet knows when her ruler is nigh, and attuned since creation to perfect accord, she thrills in her station and yearns to her Lord. The waters have risen, the springs are unbound, the floods break their prisons and raven around. No rampart withstands them, their fury will last till the sign that commands them sinks low or swings past. Through abysses unproven and gulfs beyond thought, our portion is woven, our burden is wrought. Yet they that prepare it, whose nature we share, make us who must share it well able to bear. Though terrors overtake us, we'll not be afraid. No power can unmake us save that which is made. Nor yet beyond reason nor hope shall we fall. All things have their season, and mercy crowns all. Then doubt not, ye fearful, the Eternal is King. Up heart and be cheerful, and lustily sing, what chariots, what horses against us shall bide, while the stars in their courses do fight on our side. A doctor of medicine. They were playing hide and seek with bicycle lamps after tea. Dan had hung his lamp on the apple tree at the end of the hellebore bed in the walled garden, and was crouched by the gooseberry bushes ready to dash off when Una should spy him. He saw her lamp come into the garden and disappear as she hid it under her cloak. While he listened for her footsteps, somebody, they thought it was Phillips the gardener, coughed in the corner of the herb beds. "All right," shouted Una across the asparagus. "We aren't hurting your old beds, Phipsy." She flashed her lantern toward the spot, and in its circle of light they saw a Guy Fawkes-looking man in a black cloak with a steeple-crowned hat walking down the path beside Puck. They ran to meet him, and the man said something to them about rooms in their heads. After a time they understood he was warning them not to catch cold. "You've a bit of cold yourself, haven't you?" said Una, for he ended all his sentences with a consequential cough. Puck laughed. "Child," the man answered, "if it hath pleased heaven to afflict me with an infirmity—" "Nay, nay," Puck struck in, "the maid spoke out of kindness. I know half your cough is but a catch to trick the vulgar, and that's a pity. There's honesty enough in you, Nick, without rasping and hawking." "Good people," the man shrugged his lean shoulders, "the vulgar crowd love not truth unadorned. Wherefore we philosophers must needs dress her to catch their eye, or their ear." "And what do you think of that?" said Puck solemnly to Dan. "I don't know," he answered. "It sounds like lessons." "Ah, well, there have been worse men than Nick Culpepper to take lessons from. Now, where can we sit that's not indoors?" "In the haymow next to old Mittenboro," Dan suggested. "He doesn't mind." "Eh?" Mr. Culpepper was stooping over the pale hellebore blooms by the light of Una's lamp. "Does Master Middenboro need my poor services, then?" "Save him, no," said Puck. "He is but a horse, next door to an ass, as you'll see presently. Come." Their shadows jumped and slid on the fruit tree walls. They filed out of the garden by the snoring pig pound and the crooning hen house to the shed where Middenboro, the old lawn-mower pony, lives. His friendly eyes showed green in the light as they set their lamps down on the chicken's drinking trough outside and pushed past to the haymow. Mr. Culpepper stooped at the door. "Mind where you lie," said Dan. "This hay's full of hedge brushings." In, said Puck. "You've lain in fouler places than this, Nick. Ah, let us keep touch with the stars." He kicked open the top half of the door and pointed to the clear sky. "There be the planets you conjure with. What does your wisdom make of that wandering and variable star behind those apple boughs?" The children smiled. A bicycle that they knew well was being walked down the steep lane. "Where?" Mr. Culpepper leaned forward quickly. "That? Some countryman's lantern." "Wrong, Nick," said Puck. "'Tis a singular bright star in Virgo, declining toward the house of Aquarius the water-carrier, who hath lately been afflicted by Gemini. Aren't I right, Una?" Mr. Culpepper snorted contemptuously. "No, it's the village nurse going down to the mill about some fresh twins that came there last week." "Nurse," Una called as the light stopped on the flat, "when can I see the Morris twins, and how are they?" "Next Sunday, perhaps. Doing beautifully," the nurse called back, and with a ping-ping-ping of the bell brushed round the corner. "Her uncle's a veterinary surgeon near Banbury," Una explained, "and if you ring her bell at night, it rings right beside her bed, not downstairs at all. Then she jumps up, she always keeps a pair of dry boots in the fender, you know, and goes anywhere she's wanted. We help her bicycle through the gaps sometimes. Most of her babies do beautifully. She told us so herself." "I doubt not, then, that she reads in my books," Mr. Culpepper said quietly. "Twins at the mill," he muttered half aloud. "And again he saith, 'Return, ye children of men.'" "Are you a doctor or a rector?" Una asked, and Puck, with a shout, turned head over heels in the hay. But Mr. Culpepper was quite serious. He told them that he was a physician astrologer, a doctor who knew all about the stars as well as all about herbs for medicine. He said that the sun, the moon, and 5 planets, Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, Saturn, and Venus, governed everybody and everything in the world. They all lived in houses. He mapped out some of them against the dark with a busy forefinger, and they moved from house to house like pieces at draughts, and they went loving and hating each other all over the skies. If you knew their likes and dislikes, he said, you could make them cure your patient and hurt your enemy, and find out the secret causes of things. He talked of these 5 planets as though they belonged to him, or as though he were playing long games against them. The children burrowed in the hay up to their chins and looked out over the half-door at the solemn star-powdered sky till they seemed to be falling upside down into it, while Mr. Culpepper talked about trines and oppositions and conjunctions and sympathies and antipathies in a tone that just matched things. A rat ran between Middenboro's feet, and the old pony stamped. "Mid hates rats," said Dan, and passed him over a lock of hay. "I wonder why." "Divine astrology tells us," said Mr. Culpepper, The horse, being a martial beast that beareth men to battle, belongs naturally to the red planet Mars, the Lord of War. I would show you him, but he's too near his setting. Rats and mice, doing their business by night, come under the domination of Our Lady the Moon. Now between Mars and Luna, the one red, t'other white, the one hot, t'other cold, and so forth, stands, as I have told you, a natural antipathy, or, as you say, hatred, which antipathy their creatures do inherit. Whence, good people, you may both see and hear your cattle stamp in their stalls for the selfsame causes as decree the passage of the stars across the unalterable face of heaven. Puck lay along chewing a leaf. They felt him shake with laughter, and Mr. Culpepper sat up stiffly. I myself, said he, have saved men's lives, and not a few neither, by observing at the proper time, there is a time, mark you, for all things under the sun, by observing, I say, so small a beast as a rat in conjunction with so great a matter as this dread arch above us. He swept his hand across the sky. Yet there are those, he went on sourly, who have years without knowledge. Right, said Puck, no fool like an old fool. Mr. Culpepper wrapped his cloak round him and sat still while the children stared at the great bear on the hilltop. Give him time, Puck whispered behind his hand. He turns like a timber tug, all of a piece. Ahem, Mr. Culpepper said suddenly. I'll prove it to you. When I was physician to Say's horse and fought the king, or rather the man Charles Stuart, in Oxfordshire, I had my learning at Cambridge, the plague was very hot all round us. I saw it at close hands. He who says I am ignorant of the plague, for example, is altogether beside the bridge. We grant it, said Puck solemnly, but why talk of the plague this rare night? To prove my argument. This Oxfordshire plague, good people, being generated among rivers and ditches, was of a wearish, watery nature. Therefore it was curable by drenching the patient in cold water and laying him in wet cloths, or at least so I cured some of them. Mark this, it bears on what shall come after. Mark also, Nick, said Puck, that we are not your college of physicians, but only a lad and a lass and a poor lubberkin. Therefore be plain, old hyssop on the wall. To be plain and in order with you, I was shot in the chest while gathering of betony from a brookside near Thame, and was took by the king's men before their colonel, one Blag or Bragg, whom I warned honestly I had spent the week past among our plague-stricken. He flung me off into a cowshed, much like this here, to die, as I supposed, but one of their priests crept in by night and dressed my wound. He was a Sussex man like myself. Who was that? Said Puck suddenly. Zack Tutham? No, Jack Margate, said Mr. Culpepper. Jack Margate of New College, the little merry man who stammered so. Why plague was stuttering Jack at Oxford then? Said Puck. He had come out of Sussex in hope of being made a bishop when the king should have conquered the rebels, as he styled us Parliament men. His college had lent the king some moneys, too, which they never got again, no more than simple Jack got his bishopric. When we met, he had had a bitter bellyful of king's promises and wished to return to his wife and babes. This came about beyond expectation, for so soon as I could stand of my wound, the man Blag made excuse that I had been among the plague, and Jack had been tending me, to thrust us both from out their camp. The king had done with Jack now that Jack's college had lent the money, and Blag's physician could not abide me because I would not sit silent and see him butcher the sick. He was a college of physicians man. So Blag, I say, thrust us both out with many vile words for a pair of pestilent, prating, pragmatical rascals. Ha! Called you pragmatical, Nick? Pug started up. High time Oliver came to purge the land. How did you and honest Jack fare next? We were in some sort constrained to each other's company. I was for going to my house at Spitalsfield. He would go to his parish in Sussex. But the plague was broke out and spreading through Wiltshire, Berkshire, and Hampshire, and he was so mad distracted to think that it might even be among his folk at home that I bore him company. He had comforted me in my distress. I could not have done less. And I remembered that I had a cousin in Great Wigsell, near by Jack's parish. Thus we footed it from Oxford, cassock and buff coat together, resolute to leave wars on the left side henceforth, and either through our mean appearances or the plague making men less cruel, we were not hindered. To be sure, they put us in the stocks one half day for rogues and vagabonds in a village under St. Leonard's Forest, where, as I have heard, nightingales never sing. But the constable very honestly gave me back my astrological almanac, which I carry with me. Mr. Culpepper tapped his thin chest. I dressed a whitlow on his thumb. So we went forward. And we will find what they go forward to next time.